Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Nityananda Chandram Patita Sharanadam Gauradam Tam Bhajeham Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shirvasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudire nasta praesva bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati neshtiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavatam ki jai. Canto 3, Chapter 21. Conversation between Manu and Kardama. Vidura uvacha Swayambhuvasya cha manor Vamsaha paramasammatah Kathyatam bhagavan yatra Maithune nedhire prajaha.
Vidur said, the line of Swayambhava Manu was most esteemed. O worshipful sage, I beg you, give me an account of this race, whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse.
You might be muted, Leela.
Sorry, Prabhu. Priyavrato tanapadau suto swayambhuvasya vai yatha dharmam jugupatuhu saptadvipavatim mahim.
The two great sons of Swayambhuva Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanapada, ruled the world, consisting of 7 islands, just according to religious principles.
Tasya vai duhita brahman devahutiti visruta patni prajapati rukta kardamasya tvayanagha.
O holy Brahmana, O sinless one, you have spoken of his daughter, known by the name Devahuti, as the wife of the sage Kardama, the lord of created beings.
Tasyam savai mahayogi yuktayam yoga lakshane sasarja kati dhaviryam tanme susru savevada.
How many offspring did that great yogi beget through the princess, who was endowed with eightfold perfection in the yoga principles? Oh, pray tell me this, for I am eager to hear it.
Ruchiryo Bhagavan Brahman Daksho va Brahmanah Sutaha Yatha Sasarja Bhutani Labdhva Bharyam Cha Manavim.
O holy sage, tell me how the worshipful Ruchi and Daksha, the son of Brahma, generated children after securing as their wives the other 2 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu.
Maitreya Uvacha Prajaha Srijati Bhagavan Kardamo Brahmanoditaha Sarasvatyam Tapastepe Sahasranam Samadasa.
The great sage Maitreya replied, commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years.
ततः समाधियुक्तेन क्रियायोगिन कर्दमः सम्प्रापेदे हरिं भक्त्या प्रपन्नवरदासुषम्.
During that period of penance, the sage Kardama, by worship through devotional service in trance, propitiated the personality of Godhead, who is the quick bestower of all blessings upon those who flee to him for protection.
तावत् प्रसन्नो भगवान् पुष्कराक्षः कृते युगे दर्शयामाश तं क्षतः शाब्दं ब्रह्म दधद्वपुः.
Then, in the Satyug, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas.
सतां विरजम् अर्काभम् सीतपद्मोत्पलशजम् स्निग्धनीलालकव्रात वक्त्राब्जम् विरजोम्बरम्.
Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is free from material contamination, in his eternal form, effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. The Lord was clad in spotless yellow silk, and his lotus face was fringed with sleek dark locks of curly hair.
किरीटिनं कुण्डलिनं शङ्खचक्रगदाधरं श्वेतोत्पलकृदन्नकं मनः स्पर्शस्मितेक्षणम्.
Adorned with a crown and earrings, he held his characteristic conch, disc, and mace in 3 of his hands and a white lily in the 4th. He glanced about in a happy smiling mood, whose sight captivates the hearts of all devotees.
विन्यस्तचरणाम्भोजम् अंसदेशे गरुत्मतः दृष्ट्वाखेव स्थितं वक्षः श्रियं कौस्तुभकन्धरम्.
A golden streak on his chest, the famous Kastuva gem suspended from his neck, he stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulders of Garuda.
जातहर्षोपतन्मूर्ध्ना क्षितो लब्धा मनोरथः गिर्भिस्त्वा अभ्यघ्रिणात् प्रीति स्वभावात्मा कृताञ्जलिः.
When Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell on the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, his heart naturally full of love of God. With folded hands, he satisfied the Lord with prayers.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Let's just do a quick summary of this. So, in the first 5 verses, Vidur inquires from Maitreya about the genealogical line of Swayambhu Manu. So, this is like the father of mankind and son of Brahma is Manu. And he is in charge of populating the world. And especially he had progeny who were expert at this. He especially wants to hear, Vidur wants to hear about Priyavrat and Uttanpad. These are 2 amazing personalities we'll hear a lot more about as we go through the Bhagavatam. And also Devahuti, who married Kardam, Daksha and Ruchi. So Kardam Muni, he fulfilling Brahma's order to beget progeny, Kardam Muni purifies his consciousness by performing austerities for 10,000 years. Through meditation and penance, he gained the vision of the Supreme Lord. So this is really where Bhagavatam excels other scriptures, because Bhagavatam gives such wonderful descriptions of the Lord, not just once or twice, many, many times. So this is the vision. Effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies, clad in spotless yellow silk. His lotus face was fringed with silk dark locks of curly hair, adorned with crown and earrings. He held his characteristic conch disc mace in 3 of his hands and a white lily in the 4th. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, which captivated the hearts of all the devotees. A golden streak on his chest is the famous Kastuba gem suspended from his neck. I think this golden streak is called Shivatsa. He stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulder of Garud, the carrier. Kadamuni, he saw this incredible form. He joyfully fell at the lotus feet of the Lord and he offered him obeisances with love. So this is a really fantastic painting which depicts this scene where Kandamuni is doing incredible tapasya, a great sage, one of the Shaptarishis as well. And he gets the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, who's come on the carrier Garud. And we saw a brief description of what he looks like. It's absolutely phenomenal. So this is really a blessing of the Lord. We can see through the eyes of Scripture the Supreme Personality of God. You know, people say, "Where is God? Can't see him." Well, let's look at him from the right place, in the right place, and see him through the eyes of Scripture. So this is a fantastic scene, and it's just absolutely amazing how this wonderful sage got the darshan of Lord Vishnu on his carrier. Okay, so up to text number 21 now, please, Anina.
Yes, Guruji.
Where are you? Must be strange. Just trying to find, share the screen. That's weird. 1 second. I think I need to just come out of this. Start in. Share screen. Ah, there it is. Okay.
ऋषिरुवाच जुष्टं बताद्या किल सद्वरासेह सांसिध्यमक्ष्णोष्टव दर्शनान्नः यद्दर्शनं जन्मभिर्य सद्भिः आसासते योगिनुरुद्धयोगाः.
The great sage Kardama said, O Supreme Worshipful Lord, my power of sight is now fulfilled, having attained the greatest perfection of the sight of you, who are the reservoir of all existences. Through many successive births of deep meditation, advanced yogis aspire to see your transcendental form.
ये मायया ते हतमेधसस्त्वत् पादारविन्दं भवसिन्धुपोतम् उपासते कामलवाय तेषां रासि सकामान् निरयेऽपि येष्युः.
Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow mercy even upon them.
तथा स चाहं परिवोढुकामः समानशीलां गृहमेधधेनुम् उपेयिवान्मूलम् अशेषमूलं दुराशयः कामदुघाङ्घ्रिपस्य.
Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree.
प्रजापतेस्तेव च शाधिशतञ्च लोकः किलायं कामः तनुबद्धः अहं च लोकानुगतो वहामि बलिं च शुक्लानिमिषाय तुभ्यम्.
O my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls, as if bound by rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desires. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations for you, who are eternal time.
लोकांश्च लोकानुगतान् पशूंश्च हित्वा शितास्ते चरणातपत्रम् परस्परं त्वद्गुणवादसिद्धु पीयूषनिर्यापितदेहधर्माः.
However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body.
न ते जराक्षभ्रमिरायुषां त्रयोदशारं त्रिशतं षष्टिपर्व संयेम्यनन्तच्छाद्यत्रीनाभि करालश्रोतो जगदाच्छिद्यधावत्.
Your wheel, which has 3 naves, rotates around the axis of the imperishable Brahman. It has 13 spokes, 360 joints, 6 rims, and numberless leaves carved upon it. Though its revolution cuts short the lifespan of the entire creation, this wheel of tremendous velocity cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees of the Lord.
एकः स्वयं सञ्जगतः शिशिक्षया द्वितीययात्मन्नधियोगमायया सृजसि यदः पाशि पुनर्गसिष्यसे योऽथर्ननाभिर्भगवन् स्वशक्तिभिः.
My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O Personality of Godhead, desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy, called Yogmaya, just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy and again winds it up.
नैतद्बताधीशपदं तवेप्सितं यन्माययानस्तनुसे भूतसूक्ष्मम् अनुग्रहायस्त्वपियर्निमायया लशतुलस्य भगवान् विलक्षितः.
You might be muted, Lena. Yeah,
Sorry, Prabhuji.
that's okay.
My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves.
तं त्वन्नुभूत्योपरता क्रियार्थं स्वमययावर्तितलोकतन्त्रं नमाम्यभीक्ष्णं नमाम्यपाद सरोजमर्पीयशिखामवर्षम्.
I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant. To give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity, by realizing you, you have expanded these material worlds by your own energy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's have a look at these incredible verses of prayers by Kadamuni. Prayers are so important, and the devotees show us the example of how to pray. He offers prayers to the Lord, some of which are as follows. His eyes, the Lord's eyes, Kandamuni's eyes, have become successful by having darshan of the Lord. This is the real success of life, when we can see the Lord. But the seeing doesn't necessarily mean by our eyes. We can see by our ears as well. This is the beauty of bhakti, that actually the way to see the Lord is hearing about him. That's a very powerful way to actually get close to the Supreme Lord. Our eyes can deceive us, but if we hear from the proper source and we hear attentively, we can have darshan of the Lord through our ears. It takes advanced yogis lifetimes to see his transcendental form. Even they travel with the speed of mind, but they still can't reach the spiritual world. But devotees can easily see him. His lotus feet, the Lord's lotus feet, can take one across the material world into the spiritual world. They are our shelter, like he says, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita. Devi Esha Manomai, Devi Esha Gunamai, Mammaya Durudaya. He says something like, this divine energy of mine is very difficult to cross, but one who has taken shelter of my lotus feet can easily cross beyond it. So this is the beauty of the Lord. He can take us beyond this world into the spiritual world. But the less intelligent, they worship the Lord for material things, but still he's kind to them. Whether we want something spiritual or material, we should always go to the Lord. Ideally, we shouldn't ask him for material things because he already gives that and he will never stop giving that. But if we somehow or other can restrict our desires from the Lord to just spiritual matters, my dear Lord, I'd like to understand you better. I'd like to have darshan of you. I'd like to serve you. That will help us. That will help us. But if we want material things, still approach the Lord. Like Kadamuni, he's saying, he's equating himself to a materialist. He's saying, I'm worshipping you to have a wife of similar disposition to fulfill his desires in material life. Because Kadamuni was ordered by his father to populate the world. So he was actually following orders from a higher authority. And he's a great sage. He's not at the same level as ordinary people. He's a phenomenal person. In fact, the Lord wouldn't appear before him if he wasn't. People who take shelter of his lotus feet by discussing Krishna Katha are freed from bodily afflictions. This is really powerful. Those who are really engrossed in discussing Krishna Katha, they don't have any bodily, like I remember our Guru Maharaj, he had a quadruple bypass operation, heart. Yet he used to give Bhagavatam classes for 1, 2, 3 hours, no problem. And whilst he was giving class, you would think this is a young man. He was 75, 80. He's a young man who's 20 or something. such enthusiasm. So actually, when one is engaged like that, the material modes, or don't affect him. The material limitations don't affect the devotee because they're discussing Krishna Katha. And I love this bit: the force of time as the Lord's chakra, because time destroys everything. Like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the 11th chapter, "Time, I am the destroyer of everything." So time destroys. Time is like the chakra of the Lord. Ultimately takes everything away. However, time doesn't affect the devotees. Why not? Because time doesn't affect the Lord either. And because the devotees are under the shelter of the Lord, time won't affect them either. Time serves the Lord. In the spiritual world, time serves the Lord. It doesn't destroy everything. It serves. So in the same way, the time serves the devotees to do their devotion to the Supreme Lord. Then his prayers go into the creation part of things. Lord creates, maintains, destroys, like a spider creates its own cobweb and winds it up. The spider is never bound by the cobweb. He can create it and he can destroy it. Similarly, the Lord is in the same position. So really phenomenal set of prayers by Kanta Muni there. Very, very nice. And it's nice when we tap into these prayers of the great devotees, because then we can also know how to pray to the Lord, which is very important. So now up to text number 32, please, Mataji.
Yes, Babaji. ऋषिरुवाच इत्याव्यलीकं प्रणुतो जनाभस्तम् आबभासे वचसामृतेन सुपर्णपक्षो परिरोचमानः प्रेमस्मितोद्वीक्षणविभ्रमद्भ्रुः.
Maitreya resumed, sincerely extolled in this world, Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garud, replied with words as sweet as nectar. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha विदित्वा तव चैत्यं मे पुरेव समयोजितत् यदर्थम् आत्मनियमैः त्वयैवाहं समर्चितः.
The Supreme Lord said, having come to know what was in your mind, I have already arranged for that for which you have worshipped me well through your mental and sensory discipline.
न वै जातुमृषैव स्यात् प्रजाध्यक्षमदर्हनम् भवद्विधीश्वरातितरां मयि संग्रभितात्मनाम्.
The Lord continued, My dear Rasi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you, who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration.
प्रजापति सुतः सम्रान् मनुर्विख्यातमङ्गलः ब्रह्मवर्तं योधिष्वसन् शास्ति सप्तार्णवान् महिम्.
The Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, who is well known for his righteous acts, has his seat in Brahmavratra and rules over earth with its 7 oceans.
सचेह विप्रराजर्षिर्महिष्यासतरूपया आयास्यति दिदृक्षु त्वां परस्वो धर्मकोविदः.
The day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, that celebrated emperor, who is expert in religious activities, will come here with his queen. Satrup, wishing to see you.
Atmajam ashitapangim vayahasila gunanvitam mrigayantim patim dashyati anurupayate prabho.
He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage, and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife.
Samahitam te hirdayam yantreman parivatsaran satvam brahman ripavadhuhu kamam masu bhajishyati.
That princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content.
Yata atma bhritam viryam navadha prasavishyati viryatvadiyarishaya adhashanti anyasatmanah.
She will bring forth 9 daughters from the seed sown in her by you, and through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children.
Tvam cha samyag anusthaya nidesam utsatamah mayi tirthi krita sesha kriyartho mam prapatsase.
With your heart cleansed by properly carrying out my command, resigning to me the fruits of all your acts, you will finally attain me.
Kritva dayam cha jiveshu datva cha bhayam atmavan mayi atmanam sahajagat drakshasi atmani chapi mam.
Showing compassion to all living entities, you will attain self-realization. Giving assurance of safety to all, you will perceive your own self as well as all the universes in me, and myself in you.
Sahaham swam sakalaya tvadviryena mahamune tava kshetra devahutyam pranishye tadva samhitam.
O great sage, I shall manifest my own plenary portion through your wife, Devahuti, along with your 9 daughters, and I shall instruct her in the system of philosophy that deals with the ultimate principles of categories.
Great, thank you. So let's have a quick look at this wonderful section. So the Lord is benedicting Kadamuni. Because of his Kadamuni's sincere devotional service, the Lord already knew his desire. So similarly, he knows what we want as well. You don't even have to ask him. He knows because it's in our head, he's in our heart. He knows everything about us. There's nothing we can hide from him. So what's the point of asking him? Because he already knows, especially material desires. If he wants them to be fulfilled, he'll fulfill our material desires because it's good for us. If he doesn't, that's good as well for us because it's those material desires wouldn't have done us any good. So already he knew, and he assures Kadamuni that in 2 days' time, Kadamuni will attain a highly qualified wife, Devahuti, who is the daughter of Manu and Satarupa. So they would come to him. Lord is assured, don't worry. I have already made the arrangements. You are going to get a great wife. She will be beautiful and bear you 9 girls. And I will also come. the plenary portion of myself will come and bless you, be as your son. And his name is Kapildev. So this is the benediction that was given to Kadamuni. And because Kadamuni's heart was very, very clean, and his desire for service, he was very honest as well. He doesn't hide himself behind, sort of charming words to the Lord. He expresses himself. My dear Lord, I'm fallen. I want material. I want a wife. And the Lord, of course, he knew that. But he also knew that this is a very clean-hearted devotee of mine. So in that way, the Lord blessed him so nicely. So up to verse number 37, please. Let me see if I can just do it straight from here. No, I can't. Okay.
Maitreya uvacha evam tam anubhasyatha bhagavan pratyagakshajah jagama bindu sarasah sarasvatya parisritat.
Maitreya went on, thus having spoken to Kardama Muni, the Lord, who reveals himself only when the senses are in Krishna consciousness, departed from that lake called Bindu Sarovar, which was encircled by the river Saraswati.
निरीक्षतस्तस्य ययावशेष सिद्धेश्वराभीष्टुतसिद्धमार्गः आकर्णयन् पत्ररथीन्द्रपक्षे उच्चारितं स्तोमम् उदीर्णसामम्.
While the sage stood looking on, the Lord left by the pathway leading to Vaikuntha, a path extolled by all great liberated souls. The sage stood listening as the hymns forming the basis of the Samaveda were vibrated by the flapping wings of the Lord's carrier, Garud.
अथ सम्प्रष्ठिते शुक्ले कर्दमो भगवान् ऋषिः आष्टे स्म बिन्दुसरसि तं कालं प्रतिपालयन्.
Then, after the departure of the Lord, the worshipful sage Kardama stayed on the bank of Bindu Sarovar, awaiting the time of which the Lord had spoken.
मनुष्यन्दनमाष्ठाय सातकुम्भपरिच्छदम् आरोप्य स्वां दुहितरं सभार्यः पर्यतान्महिम्.
Swayambhuva Manu, with his wife, mounted his chariot, which was decorated with golden ornaments. Placing his daughter on it with them, he began traveling all over the earth.
तस्मिन् सुधन्वनाहनि भगवान् यत् समाधिसत् उपायादाश्रमपदं मुनेः शान्तव्रतस्य तत्.
O Vidur, they reached the hermitage of the sage, who had just completed his vows of austerity on the very day foretold by the Lord.
यस्मिन् भगवतो नेत्रान् ज्ञापयन्नश्रुबिन्दवः कृपया सम्परीतस्य प्रपन्ने पर्पितया भृशम्. तद्वै बिन्दुसरो नाम सरस्वत्या परिप्लुतं पुण्यं शिवामृतजलं महर्षिगणसेवितम्.
The holy lake, Bindu Sarovar, flooded by the waters of the river Saraswati, was resorted to to by hosts of eminent sages. Its holy water was not only auspicious, but as sweet as nectar. It was called Bindu Sarovar because drops of tears had fallen there from the eyes of the Lord, who was overwhelmed by extreme compassion for the sage who had sought his protection.
Okay, let's just have a little break there. So, the Lord then leaves for Vaikuntha after giving the benediction on his carrier, Garud, whose flapping wings vibrate the hymns of the Samaved. Amazing. There's nothing mundane about the Lord or anything around the Lord. So even his carrier, Garud, is actually a very transcendental personality. And his flapping wings vibrate the hymns of the Samaved. In the meantime, the worshipful sage Kardamuni stayed on the banks of the Bindu Sarovar, awaiting the time of which the Lord had spoken. After traveling all over the world, Swambhu Manu and his wife, Chaturupa, and his daughter, Devahuti, reached the hermitage of the sage, exactly when foretold by the Lord, who had just completed, the sage had just completed his vows of austerity on the very day foretold by the Supreme Lord. So this is very interesting how the Supreme Lord predicts this, and it of course happens as it is because Lord is omniscient, he knows everything. And it happened, and this is the blessing of the Lord. It's the kindness of the Lord on his wonderful devotees. So we shouldn't think Kardamuni is not a pure devotee. He's a pure devotee. The Lord would not appear in front of him if he wasn't. He was a pure devotee, but also he was doing great austerities to please the Lord. And he did please the Lord. This is the amazing thing about Kardamuni. And the Lord appeared before him. So I think it's now up to text 44.
It's 38.
Yeah, you did 38 and 39. That's fine. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you already chanted 38 and 39, so that's fine.
Punya drumalata jalai kujat punya mrigad vijay sarvartu phala pushpajam vanaraji shriyanvitam.
The shore of the lake was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in fruits and flowers of all seasons, that afforded shelter to pious animals and birds, which uttered various cries. It was adorned by the beauty of groves of forest trees.
Matta dvija ganirghushtam, matta brahmara vibramam, matta barhina tatopam, ahavayan matta kokilam.
The area resounded with the notes of overjoyed birds. Intoxicated bees wandered there, intoxicated peacocks proudly danced, and merry cuckoos called one another.
Kadamba champaka shoka karanja bakulashane kunda mandara kutta jaish chutta poter alankritam कारन्दवैप्लवैर्हंसैः पुररैर्जलकुक्कुटैः सारसैश्चक्रवाकैश्च चकोरैर्वर्गुपूजितम्.
Lake Bindu Sarovar was adorned by flowering trees such as Kadamba, Champaka, Ashoka, Karanja, Bakula, Asana, Kunda, Mandara, Kutaja, and young mango trees. The air was filled with the pleasing notes of Karandava ducks, flowers, swans, ospreys, waterfowl, cranes, chakravakas, and chakoras.
तथैव हरिणैः क्रोधैः स्वाविद्गवय कुञ्जरैः गोपुच्छैः हरिभिर्मर्कैर्नकुलैर्नाभिभिर्वृतम्.
Its shores abounded with deer, boars, porcupines, gavayas, elephants, baboons, lions, monkeys, mangooses, and musk deer.
Okay, very interesting. So this lake, Bindu Sarovar, flooded by river Saraswati, contained the Lord's tears of compassion for his great devotee, Kardamuni. Why tears of compassion? Because Kardamuni was performing great austerities, really amazing austerities to attain the Lord. And the Lord, he becomes indebted to someone like that. So he cries tears of compassion for Kardamuni. This river's shores were rich with trees, fruits, flowers, numerous animals, birds flocked to the lake, which was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in flowers and fruits of all seasons, creating a very pleasing atmosphere. So perhaps we could just, this is perhaps a bit of an idea of what it looks like. Very, very beautiful, very gorgeous. Just right for having a very peaceful mind serving the Supreme Lord. Okay. So now it's to the end. Okay.
प्रविश्य तत्तीर्थावरम् आदिराजः सहात्मजः ददर्श मुनिम् आसीनं तस्मिन् हुतासनम् विद्योतमानं वपुषा तपसि उग्रयुजाचिरम् नातिक्षामं भगवतः स्निग्धापाङ्गावलोकनात् तद्व्याहृतामृतकला पीयूषश्रवणेन च प्रांशुं पद्मपलाशाक्षं जटिलं चिरभाषसम् उपसंसृत्य मलिनं यथार्हणं संस्कृतम्.
I think, Lina, you are muted.
Oh, so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swayambhuva Manu, saw the sage sitting in his hermitage, having just propitiated the sacred fire by pouring oblations into it. His body shone most brilliantly. Though he had engaged in austere penance for a long time, he was not emaciated, for the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large, like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhuva Manu approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem.
अथो तजम् उपायातं निर्देवं प्रणतं पुरः सपर्ययापर्यघ्रीणात् प्रतिनिन्द्यानुरूपया.
Seeing that the monarch had come to his hermitage and was bowing before him, the sage greeted him with benediction and received him with due honor.
ग्रहीतार्हनम् आशीनं संयतं प्रणिनयं मुनिः स्मरन् भगवता देशम् इति आहस्लक्ष्णया गिरा.
After receiving the sage's attention, the king sat down and was silent. Recalling the instructions of the Lord, Kardama then spoke to the king as follows, delighting him with his sweet accents.
नूनं चक्रमानं देवा सतां संरक्षणयाते वधाय चाशतां यस्त्वं हरे शक्तिर्हि पालिनी.
The tour you have undertaken, O Lord, is surely intended to protect the virtuous and kill the demons, since you embodied the protecting energy of Sri Hari.
योर्केन्द्वाग्निन्द्रवायूनां यमधर्मप्रचेतसां रूपाणि स्थानाधत्से तस्मै शुक्लाय ते नमः.
When necessary, you assume the part of the sun god, the moon god, Agni, the god of fire, Indra, the lord of paradise, Vayu, the wind god, Yam, the god of punishment, Dharma, the god of piety, and Varuna, the god presiding over the waters, all obeisances to you, who are none other than Lord Vishnu.
न यदा रथम् आष्ठाय जैत्रं मणिगणार्पितं विस्फोर्जच्छन्दको दण्डो रथेन त्रासयन्नगान् स्वसैन्यचरणक्षूणं वेपयन्मण्डलं भुवः विकर्षन् बृहतीं सेनां पर्यातस्यं सुमानिव. तदैव सेतवः सर्वे वर्णाश्रमनिबन्धनाः भगवत् राचिताः राजन् भिद्येरन्ब तदस्यभिः.
If you did not mount your victorious jeweled chariot, whose mere presence threatens culprits, if you did not produce fierce sounds by plunging of your bow, and if you did not roam about the world like the brilliant sun, leading a huge army whose trampling feet cause the globe of the earth to tremble, then all the moral laws governing the varnas and ashramas created by the Lord himself would be broken by the rogues and rascals.
अधर्मश्च समेधित लुलुपेर्व्यङ्कुशैर्निभिः सयाने त्वयि लोकोऽयं दस्युघ्रस्तो विनङ्क्षति.
If you gave up all thought of the world's situation, unrighteousness would flourish, for men who hanker only after money would be unopposed. Such miscreants would attack, and the world would perish.
अथापि पृच्छे त्वां वीर यदर्थं त्वम् इहागतः तद्वयं निर्व्यलीकेन प्रतिपद्यामहे हृदा. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
In spite of all this, I ask you, O valiant king, the purpose for which you have come here. Whatever it may be, we shall carry it out without reservation. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Very good. So, seeing Swambhu Manu approaching, Kadam Muni greeted him with blessings and respect. And Swambhu Manu also saw Kadam Muni, and he saw him as an unpolished gem because he had been fasting and doing austerity for a long time. So he didn't perhaps look the best he could due to the circumstances. But Swambhu Manu understood that, and he knew that this is a great personality. So Kadamuni highly esteemed his position as ruler and protector of the universe. Of course, the devotee is always greater than the monarch. Kadamuni was a great devotee and Manu was a monarch. But see the mood of the devotee. He will give respect to the ruler and protector of the universe. This is a right etiquette. Kadamuni compares Manu to the demigod, sun god, due to his majesty, moon god because he's calm, Agni, god of fire. The monarch is invincible. Indra, the lord of paradise, because of his lordship over the universe. Vayu, the wind god, due to the strength of Swambha Manu. Yama, the god of punishment. So he also, as a monarch, has to mete out punishment when needed. Dharma, the god of piety, righteousness. And Varun, the god of presiding over the waters, deep and hidden reservoirs. Kadamuni was ready to do whatever Manu wanted. So this is the end of chapter 21 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Swambhava Manu meets with Kadamuni, and Kadamuni is given amazing benediction because he does amazing tapasya to satisfy the Lord, who comes and gives him darshan, which is a rarity in itself. It's a wonderful chapter. Anything you'd like to add, Surinder?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhu, and Dandavat to all the Vaishnavas, Nitai Gaur Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, very interesting. The conversation of Lord Vishnu with Kardama Muni, and then Kardama Muni, he greets and welcomes Swayambhuva Manu to his cottage. Very interesting. So, whenever devotees meet, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, one verse, and there is one phrase in that verse, it says, Tushyanticha Ramanticha. So devotees, when they meet, they take pleasure in discussing Krishna Katha. They derive great happiness in discussing about the pastimes of the Lord Shri Krishna and Brahma Mahaprabhu. In this way, so that's about devotees. So we should do sadhu sangha and discuss Krishna Katha, listen Krishna Kirtan, like that. And that's also in this passage, it's been demonstrated how Kardama Muni greets and welcomes Swayambhuva Manu. So it is said in Prema Vivarta that we should welcome Vaishnavas with great respect and offer them a seat, and we can offer them a little bit of water or some fruits, or at least tulsi leaf to welcome them. And we cannot offer a nice plate of prasadam, then we should welcome the devotee with sweet words, very humble, like, and respect, like that. So this is the etiquette, and that's about devotees sadachar, Vaishnava etiquette. And about Kardama Muni, he prayed because he had to fulfill his lusty desires. So he prayed to Krishna, and it is said that our Gurudev said, if we have to ask for something, then we ask Lord Sri Krishna. And if we have to give something, we give it to Lord Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So our transaction is always with Sri Krishna in pure devotional service mood. Our aspiration is to practice Sudha Bhakti. But maybe we are a bit far away at this moment, but somehow in the future, we hope that we will be able to practice Sudha Bhakti by the grace of the Lord. So anyhow, whether we have material desires or no material desires, we shall approach Lord Shri Krishna, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, like that. And the best policy is that we should not harbor material desires. And ideally, we should not pray the Lord for fulfillment of our material desires. We should aspire for engagement in Shuddha Bhakti, as later on in this Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Deva will instruct his mother, and the instruction I may quote now because it is relevant to this chapter. And Lord Kapila Deva says to his mother as follows: "My dear mother, those who are my pure devotees and who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service, that is, to be engaged in devotional service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me." So this is the example of Sudha Bhakti mood. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu also in Shiksastakam, he has, like it is mentioned, like Kardamamuni, he offered prayers to Lord Vishnu. So offering prayers is very important, as you also mentioned, Navinandan Prabhu earlier, that offering prayers is very important. So it is said that we should think of the deity. We should meditate on the deity form of the Lord. The deity form of the Lord is transcendental and is non-different from Lord Shri Krishna. Therefore, we can offer prayers, choice prayers in front of the deity for the satisfaction of the deities, like that. And saying that we can mention a few characteristics of pure devotional service. So one of them is pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. Second is pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Third, pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. Fourth, pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Fifth, those in pure devotional service deride even the conception of liberation. And sixth, pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. Krishna is all attractive, but pure devotional service attracts even him. This means that pure devotional service is even transcendentally stronger than Krishna himself, because it is Krishna's internal potency. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat, Nitai Gaura Haribol. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Very, very important to share all of that knowledge. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Any questions by any devotees or any comments? Phenomenal chapter, actually. Amazing chapter. A lot to learn from it.
Yes, Prabhuji, very nice one.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Kaushalya Maji. Thank you so much. So let's gather next Monday. Next Monday is fine. And we'll do.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Lina.
you,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
everybody.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Surinder Prabhuji as well.
Yes,
And,
very, very nice. Thank you.
yeah, and Mataji for reading so
Very
brilliantly.
cool.
Oh, amazing reading.
Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice.